Hello everyone, welcome back to This Case Takes Place. For today's case, we are covering Madeleine McCann, but we're going to be quite specific in what we're doing. We're going to look at the different theories and the different suspects of the case and try and make like a really comprehensive, a deep dive, but just a concise deep dive into the different suspects of the case and just a little handy place to come and, if you want to learn the case, I think the 3 episodes would be a good place to kind of start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through one by one. So the first theory that comes up is, was this a burglary gone wrong? Was Madeleine the victim of a burglary that turned into kidnap or even murder? The theory is therefore that a burglar was opportunistic and that Madeleine's abduction was not premeditated. Reports possibly supporting this theory includes a 4-fold increase in burglaries in Praia da Luz between January and May of 2007, including in the McCann's block within 17 days of Madeleine vanishing. Around this time, it was rife with burglaries, which is something that investigators thought was quite important. So around this time, there were several men who were posing as charity collectors. On the 20th of April, a dishevelled man asked a tourist for money for an orphanage in a nearby town. However, no such orphanage existed. On the 25th or 26th of April, the tourist who had rented the 5A apartment before the McCanns found a strange man standing on his balcony, having entered from the street steps. This man was clean-shaven and polite, and he too asked for donations. On the day that Madeleine disappeared, which was the 3rd of May, there were at least 4 collection charity attempts. At 4 p.m, 2 dark-haired men asked a British homeowner for money for a hospice. And at 5 p.m, these 2 men approached another British tourist with the same story. And this wasn't the only time, so there were other people who reported a blonde-haired man lurking around the McCann's block in the days leading up to the 3rd of May, which was her disappearance. This man was described as ugly, with cropped hair and spots, seen across from 5A on the 2nd of May, and again earlier near the Ocean Club. Another person was spotted in the stairwell of the McCann building on the evening of the disappearance. After Madeleine vanished, at 11 o'clock, 2 blonde men were seen speaking loudly in a nearby street, but they lowered their voices abruptly when they realised they were being watched. So this theory is actually the predominant opinion of the McCann family, and the German police who later became involved believe that this is what happened. They believe this is what happened. Now, it's worth mentioning that in these kind of tourist attractions all over the world, these fake orphanages asking for money, it's extremely common. It's so common. It's I think it could be possible, but at the same time, it's so common that it's like it's part and parcel of going to a European holiday. You're going to get people, trying to scavenge for money. Yeah. So the second theory is that Madeleine just simply wandered off. So the second theory soon surfaced the moments after Madeleine disappeared. What if Madeleine just had left the apartment on her own accord and something happened to her? Perhaps some suggested that she had woken in the unfamiliar darkness, realised her parents had gone, and she just set out to find them. Maybe she slipped out into the night, down towards the tapas restaurant, or into the clutches of a stranger. Others speculated that she might have stumbled upon one of the many open construction sites scattered around Praia da Luz, but almost immediately, this possibility was branded as unlikely. Kate McCann herself did explain why she believes that this theory doesn't have much merit. So she said that the amount of hurdles Madeleine would have had to overcome to escape unnoticed, it seems quite unlikely. So first, she would need to open the unlocked patio doors. Then, somehow, she would have to have drawn the curtains shut behind her and then close the door again. Navigate the child safety gate at the top of the stairs, and then finally open and close the street gate that led out into the road. It was pretty much an obstacle course, one that seemed far beyond what a nearly 4-year-old was capable of doing, especially if she was half asleep and alone. And now we arrive to number 3, and this is what many people believe. The theory goes that Kate and Jerry McCann, because they're both doctors, some believe that they used sedatives to sedate their children so they could go out and eat and the night could be undisturbed. The fact that both of them are doctors meant that they would have been more confident than most administering such medicine to their children. If they did do this, this would explain why the twins had not woken up during the chaos of Madeleine's disappearance. The parents screaming, the friends scouring the area, and eventually the police. Despite the commotion and the hysteria, the twins lay soundly asleep. In more detail, the theory goes something like the McCanns returned to the apartment and discovered that Madeleine had had some kind of bad reaction to the medicine and passed away. Fearing the repercussion of their actions, such as losing their medical license and even worse, the idea of losing their twins and going to jail, they instead chose to conceal the body. The parents then hid her somewhere nearby and then later transferred her into a rental car that they hired 25 days after Madeleine's disappearance, finally burying her in some secret location beyond the reach of searchers. Some believe that she was maybe even put down one of the many wells in the area. The anti-McCann narrative even had a proposed burial ground, the Our Lady of the Light Church in Praia da Luz, where the McCanns often prayed, and where they had access to keys that allowed them to enter at any hour of the day. Reports circulated that detectives were prepared to dig up the cobbled street outside where roadworks were underway on the night that Madeleine vanished. So, why are so many people convinced that they are the ones responsible? So, number one, forensics. The alleged forensics gave the story momentum. As discussed last week, police sniffer dogs were brought in to try and help locate Madeleine. One of the dogs, who is trained to detect human blood, reacted to traces in the apartment and in the car that the McCanns had rented. Another, trained to detect the scent of a dead body, barked near the sofa in 5A, at items of Kate's clothing, and at Madeleine's beloved cuddle cat doll. Although we do have to just point out for a second that sniffer dogs by themselves are not a reliable source of evidence. However, it can be a helpful tool for the police with these kinds of complex investigations, and many do believe that the dogs doing this is damning evidence against Kate and Jerry McCann. Then, the public found out that it believed that DNA traces in the boot and hire car were a 100% match to Madeleine, although, as we did say earlier on, the results of the DNA were inconclusive in the original report, and the media did sensationalise a huge amount of this story as it unfolded. However, Kate and Jerry to this day maintain that the DNA found in the car boot could have come from the twins and not Madeleine. Central to the police's sedation theory was the idea that Kate and Jerry had regularly drugged their children, but tests carried out on the two twins, Madeleine's siblings, they did tests on their hair and they found that there were no sedatives in their system. The McCanns claimed to have dismantled the entire theory about this sedation. However, some people believe that this instance might have just been the first time, and that the first time went horribly wrong, and that just because they didn't find anything in the twins doesn't mean they didn't do it to Madeleine. Perhaps because she was a little bit older and the twins were younger, that they used the sedative on Madeleine. Well, that's all allegedly anyway. And then there was also the matter of eliminating evidence. 18 days prior to the sniffer dogs having done their test, Kate washed Madeleine's favourite soft toy, the cuddle cat. Some have found this to be suspicious, and even more so, the idea of washing your missing child's toy only 77 days after their disappearance. According to Kate, she did this because the toy had gotten dirty and she just wanted it to be clean and that it no longer smelled of Madeleine. However, still, many people find this to be very, very suspicious. Following on from this, we have the McCann's actions after their disappearance. A big red flag for many was Kate and Jerry's behaviour. So the first thing that people found weird was that Kate didn't turn on the light the moment she suspected Madeleine was missing. If you suspected that your child had been abducted, the first thing you do is turn on the light and maybe check that she isn't just playing hide and seek with the parents or something, a little game. People wondered, she didn't have a proper look. Yeah. So therefore, it's almost like she knew already to expect Madeleine to be gone and that it was all faked, which the second point also kind of leans into that too. So Kate then did leave the twins in their cot to run back to the table to announce that there was a kidnapper on the loose, which streams, why would you leave your twins behind? People find that pretty weird. The media then claimed that Jerry was seen playing tennis just days after Madeleine had vanished, although it's worth mentioning that this was never fully confirmed. However, it did paint the parents in a terrible light, and many people do believe this to be true. Whether it's true or not, we're not too sure, but it's not fully substantiated. And then, what is legitimate, Kate McCann was photographed jogging on the 16th and 19th of May. To some, this appeared out of character for a grieving parent. Why would she want to go on a run? Well, some people think it was because she wanted to take her mind off things, but then other people hit back and said, well, why wouldn't you want your mind filled with anything other than trying to find your daughter? That should be your main focus. You shouldn't be trying to think about anything else. I don't
It could
know.
also just be a known stress reliever.
Could be a non-stress reliever too.
And they're
Yeah.
doctors. I feel like they would be extra intent on taking care of
Hmm.
themselves,
Possibly,
possibly.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
that they would just like,
many people found it weird,
yeah.
which is fair enough. I guess people found it weird. Now we arrive to number 3 of the reasons why people suspect the McCanns is the way that they phrase things. So in addition to their actions being scrutinised, so was their language and wording. What is often touted is that the McCanns do not appear to reflect the emotions or verbiage of parents whose child has gone missing. One example is the following when an interviewer asks whether they believe if Madeleine is still alive.
La esperanza, creen de verdad que Madeleine sigue viva.
I do, maybe even more so. I strongly believe that Madeleine is out there. I think she's probably in someone's house. I don't know why. And I suppose it's a feeling, but I feel, as Madeleine's mummy, I feel in my heart really that she's there, and I don't believe Madeleine has been taken away from us permanently. I don't believe that. I don't feel it.
I don't know who would harm her.
I don't think anybody could harm someone as beautiful as Madeleine, and I don't say beautiful as in her appearance. I mean beautiful as she is a beautiful little person, and I don't think anybody would harm her.
It's weird because if you've, again, it's hard to say because again, we're trying to say that's not what a normal parent would do, but we're also not in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm going to do it now. If my child has gone missing and I believe she's been abducted by a predator, I would not think to say, I don't think anyone could harm her and that she's in someone's house but no one's harming her, and I don't think she's been taken away permanently. That's an odd thing to say because I would be thinking the absolute worst. I would hope she's not being harmed, but I would assume that that's what other motive would someone have to keep her in a house and not harm her.
Just look at her. Yeah.
What's that about?
It
Or
could
like
just
maybe
be-
just like a
yeah.
kidnapping because they wanted to keep her as a child. Like
That's possible.
that must be what they mean.
Yeah, that must be what they mean. I don't think that's too weird. I think it's probably wishful thinking. Like, but then again, she has said before, "My child's perfect little."
Yeah. That's what people are saying. Like, do they like?
So that doesn't really cross up.
Yeah.
Cross
Line
line up.
You line up.
line up, cross up. Yeah, they don't really. That doesn't
Yeah.
really line up. But I mean, I don't think it's weird in itself. I think if your child does go missing, you probably like to think in your mind for your own sanity that your child isn't being horrendously tortured in some dungeon somewhere.
No, but I feel in my heart that she's not taken away from me permanently. Okay, fine. Maybe you hope that what you aspire, okay, that one's not weird. But and then the husband's like, yeah, I don't know who would harm her.
There'll be loads of people who'd harm her.
Yeah, that's the primary motive.
Tens of thousands of men right now who do something horrible to her.
That's what I mean. So like that is like, again, on its own, it's not. But that's one example of things that people are like, that's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So people online have looked at these interviews and other interviews too. There are many, as you can imagine, quite a lot of interviews with the McCanns, and they believe that these statements, among others, point to their guilt. They think they appear cold in interviews and they're not appropriately emotional. Some perceive this as giving weight to the idea that they have sort of rehearsed a script and that now they are delivering it to the press, that they've both kind of rehearsed it with each other beforehand. What people do find strange is that the parents, Jerry and Kate, were extremely insistent and consistent from the beginning that she was kidnapped specifically. People wonder, why didn't they want to explore any other avenues? Why were they so insistent on kidnapping? Another thing what people find strange is that there were no accusations or tensions between each other or with other friends. Typically, according to some sources, a lot of finger pointing would happen. So a lot of like Jerry would point the finger at Kate, vice versa, things like that. That didn't happen.
That makes sense. You leave the door open.
Why did you do
I
that?
locked the door. No, you didn't. Like
the friend checked in. Why did you not do this?
Yeah.
Why didn't you step in forward further?
For sure.
And that didn't happen. So some people take this as that they are co-conspirators and that they have a shared interest in the cover-up because of their own involvement. Also, what other people find suspicious is that the McCanns say details that are kind of like facts without any kind of proof, suggesting that they are trying to sell some kind of narrative. So an example of this is the parents tell the twins, who are now older, that a man came and took Madeleine. It's not been confirmed that a man had taken Madeleine or if Madeleine was taken at all. No one really knows any. We don't really know any concrete details about what actually happened to her. Yet they state this as fact, even telling their own children that a man came in and took Madeleine. And now we arrive to Kate McCann's book. Another thing that people find suspicious is contained in Kate McCann's book. In 2011, she released a book called Madeleine, our daughter's disappearance and the continuing search for her. On page 164, she states how she imagined her, quote, perfect little genitals being torn apart. To this day, some have found this description to be unsettling. It's hard to even say that.
I know, it's
It's an
horrific.
awful thing to say.
Yeah. But
Out
this is an
loud.
awful case.
It is an awful case.
That's
very
just
true.
the reality of a
Yeah.
situation.
Contextually speaking, however, this book was written at a time when Madeleine's case wasn't being investigated and Kate was trying to garner public attention to kickstart her search. Ultimately, this book was very effective, with Operation Grange under David Cameron launching the following year. So, with this book and quite the grotesque description she gave, it did kick people into action.
Yeah,
so
it
it
really
worked.
did.
It got, and they've said themselves they wanted to market the case in a way so that they can
Keep her in the public's
keep her in the
eye.
public's eye, and it worked. She's the most well recognizable faces in the world. But
That's right.
say.
That's right. They gave her the best chance possible
Yeah,
of being
true.
found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other people who have read this book don't believe that this comment is sinister at all. One commenter has said, "I'm always surprised when people are shocked that Kate would have thought this. I have OCD and anxiety disorder, and I can picture myself thinking such a thing about someone I love being harmed. Her book was open, honest, and raw, which I do appreciate." Despite the tidal wave of allegations against the parents, by July of 2008, the McCanns were cleared of aguido status, so they were no longer considered to be primary suspects. In their statement, the couple said it is utterly despairing to be treated as suspects in their own daughter's disappearance, and then portrayed by the media as criminals. Despite this, another person who thinks that the McCanns are responsible for Madeleine's disappearance is actually the chief detective who was working on the case for Madeleine McCann, and his name is Gonçalo Amaral. We did mention him in the previous episode, but you don't need to watch that. We will go break down why he thinks that the McCanns are responsible. Gonçalo Amaral was essentially the local lead running the Portuguese side day to day and led the initial Portuguese investigation. He was involved in setting lines of inquiry, managing the local team, and liaising, sometimes tensely, with the British police. His tenure covers the intense May to September 2007 period when the case swung between abduction theories and alternative explanations. It was in October of 2007 he did criticise aspects of the British police's involvement, which led to him being removed from the leadership role, and he was transferred off the case. It is important to note, however, that many years later, the investigation led by the police in that period has been heavily criticised, and the police have since apologised for their poor handling of the case. It was in the following year of 2008 that this Chief Inspector Amaral wrote a book called The Truth of the Lie, setting out his view that Madeleine had died in the apartment and that there was no abduction and that the McCanns were the ones responsible. His main evidence for this is about the no proven break-in at the bedroom window or the shutters, the cadaver dogs smelling blood and a dead body, trace DNA testing on the hire car, timeline tensions and witness statements, no early physical evidence of an abductor, and 6, post-event behaviour and media and political pressure. Ultimately, he writes that an intense UK media PR effort and political pressure complicated the Portuguese police and skewed lines of investigation away from the McCanns rather than the evidence itself. So he firmly believes that they were helped in covering up the case by...
Yeah, that the PR, the media frenzy, in the end, actually helped them because there was so much, pressure. I think that, when he was in charge, it was the Portuguese did such a bad job.
Yeah, I think he's trying to deflect from his own incompetencies.
100%.
He's trying to, don't look at me, look at them.
Exactly.
I mean, if the McCanns are responsible, which nobody knows, that could be one thing. But I think this guy has zero credibility. I think it sounds good when you say, oh, the initial police investigator thought they were responsible, and then he was removed off the case.
Exactly.
But when you look at his incompetencies,
yes,
I think he's just trying to cover his own back because he handled it so bad.
For sure.
So,
and the fact that they were releasing all this information against the McCanns at the time to the press and all the he had a theory. It's the McCanns, and he really tried to coordinate an effort to try and get the very friends that he's criticizing to actually turn on them. I think he's just incompetent at his job.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So
but he's profited off it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, his book, the McCanns later tried to sue him. He appealed, and then in the end, the McCanns lost. So he was
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there was a back and forth, and ultimately he won. It's a free speech. I can say that the McCanns did it if that's my opinion. It's not slander.
I guess so. Yeah, it's not slander, I guess, is it?
Yeah. So he won that. So he made a lot of money out of it, but
Nice.
He was a terrible police officer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another loud critic is a man named Moita Flores, who is a former police inspector who later became a writer and a commentator. In his view, this wasn't a classic kidnapping. He believed that Madeleine was involved in an accident or a deliberate act that led to her dying in the apartment in Praia da Luz. He is adamant that Madeleine died in that apartment. The bit he keeps coming back to is the window. He declared it impossible for Madeleine to have been abducted through a window, and he detailed the layout, the height, the stills, the blinds, and the logistics of lifting a sleeping child, all without leaving any convincing marks. For him, the lack of forensics, with no persuasive fingerprints and no tool marks and no signs of forced entry, show that this theory of Madeleine being kidnapped has no real merit. What's worth mentioning too is that the former head of the Portuguese police union later said in 2010 that most investigators in Portugal still believe that Madeleine died in 5A. When it comes to the parents, however, there are some questions to ask. To this day, there is no solid evidence tying them to the crime. And how could two people under constant media scrutiny have hidden their daughter's body without being seen? That's quite a big one, I think. That's a huge one.
Because remember, the Renault Scenic was hired 25 days after.
They would have been watched all times.
All the time.
Especially by the Portuguese police.
Yeah, for sure.
If they had really stored a corpse in a car, wouldn't the stench have been unmistakable? How could two foreigners, strangers to the local terrain, have found the perfect hiding space? And if they did put Madeleine somewhere, she still hasn't been found. So how would they know where to hide the body? And could any parents, shattered by trauma, calmly devise and execute such an elaborate plan and then sustain it for years without cracking? So is it possible that the McCanns are totally innocent, but that they also lied about how frequently they went back to check on the kids, and that the reason they sometimes seem a bit guilty is because they weren't being more responsible, and that to this day still haunts them? That's a real possibility, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, because they do sometimes seem a little sketchy about certain details. There might be elements where, or maybe they did drug, but doesn't mean that they had that she died, and that's why they're sketchy. And then maybe the intruder then was able to capture and take Madeleine away without her waking up, and she stayed asleep in the abductor's hands because she was actually drugged.
I think for a lot of people, leaving them full stop is a huge red flag. The way that they can seem cold, but then it's hard. And I think
the main thing is the washing of the
teddy,
toy is like unusual. The dogs appears like a massive red flag, but they're not super evident. Like you can't even that's not even admissible in court.
Yeah, that's definitely worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's mainly just a tool in an investigation. So if you're trying to hunt down a killer, you bring in the dogs, and then that can lead you to another clue, and it kind of helps things along. It's like, as I said, a tool in the toolbox, but it's not on its own. So, but what's crazy is that, for example, the keys, like the keys initially went off. The dog initially reacted to the keys, and then they put the keys in a sand bucket. This was discussed in detail last week. And then both dogs reacted to it, even when it was in a different place. So there was something on those keys.
Keys? We mentioned keys. Sorry, just
car keys last week.
Did we?
Yes. Yeah.
I've got someone on my brain, I think, Keys.
Hold on, but are we finished talking the McCanns?
Yeah, I think so.
You don't have anything else to say?
Oh.
You were adamant about... Hold on, leave this in.
Okay.
You were adamant about the McCanns.
Well, I'm getting put on the spot now.
Yeah, come on.
Well, I think there are many reasons to be... First of all, I just want to say this. I don't like the fact they left their kid unattended. I don't care what year it was. I don't care anything like that. They should have known better.
Yeah.
And that's on them. And I don't think that means they did something nefarious, but I do think it's worth saying that they should have been way more responsible than there was. They are doctors. They should have known better. Yeah. I hate them for that. It makes me really angry when I think about it.
Yeah.
That must suck. It must be very hard to live with, but they definitely deserve to be put in prison for that, in my opinion. Any other parent who wasn't a upper class doctor, whatever, would have had their kids taken away at the very least and faced jail time. They got neither. If anything, they got a shitload of funding on their child, which the kid deserved it, but as parents, they deserve zero sympathy. The two little twins who lost a sister and have to live in that now, they definitely deserve some sympathy. I feel nothing for the parents whatsoever, but it must suck for them. I don't doubt that for 1 second, but I just don't like the fact that they face no legal repercussion at all.
I don't agree that anyone
I went
else.
off and I got a bit here then. I started getting warm. I was like, yeah, you what? Yeah.
I disagree completely. I don't think at all. I think that was it was common at the time.
I don't care.
But no, I don't think anybody else.
Like it's I don't care how common it was. That is not an okay thing to do. It wasn't okay. Even if it was common, it wasn't okay then to do it. There were many things that are common in history. Beating your wife was common at one point. But people should have known better to not do it. Doesn't matter if anything was common or if your mate did it last week and he beat up his wife after a pint. It's inexcusable then and it's inexcusable now. It's inexcusable to leave your child unattended in a foreign country. Let's just imagine that Madeleine did go out and she wandered off. What if she walked off down a cliff somewhere? They were on like the beach. I don't know where they were. Or like there's loads of wells and things like that. Never in a billion years will I leave the thought of leaving my niece unattended for a second in the house, never mind in a place in Portugal, makes me feel anxious, the thought of it.
For sure.
They're two well-educated doctors. I do not believe for one second that risk, when they say, oh, we didn't consider the risk. Yeah, you did. You just didn't care enough because you wanted to go and have dinner with your friends. Don't lie. It's true.
I mean, you make a fair point. They definitely prioritize their own selfish reasons.
Don't have dinner. You don't need to have dinner.
Yeah.
Don't take them with you.
Take a baby monitor even.
Or just do anything but leave your kids unattended in a foreign place.
Yeah, so
My
true.
God. Gets me so angry when I think about it. When you asked me, I was like, I don't know how much I want to go into it because I don't want to get in trouble by them. They're saying like illegal, but semi-illegal. Like, I don't really care. Do it if you want to. But like, just, I don't know if they've ever how much I've ever held hands up and said that what they did is bad. I don't know if they ever have. I have no idea.
They have been in the media.
Good. I'm
yeah,
glad.
for sure.
I hope it haunts them.
Because everyone can agree that's really messed up. Like without a doubt. But I do feel massive sympathy.
It's extreme
for them.
negligence that is punishable by law. There are people who have left their kid unattended in a car that is locked with aircon on, and they have had their children. They've been looked into by the authorities, and the McCanns didn't, and that is an absolute miscarriage of justice in my personal opinion. But that's just my opinion. That's just why I think. It fills me with rage when I think about it.
But do you think they were involved in her disappearance?
I don't know.
It's pretty crazy, the dog and like both the blood dog.
There are things to point that they're responsible.
Behind the sofa?
And there are other things to point that there's so many different angles in the McCann case. That's why it's so fascinating. That's why it's gripped so many people, is because there are so many different possible avenues that you could go down. And it's so unclear, but it always comes back to the single point: do not leave your children unattended in a foreign hotel, where I'm pretty sure they probably heard about burglaries as well. I'm pretty sure there was some talk of burglaries going around because there were 17 burglaries in the lead up to it. I bet they heard a little story or two about burglars in the area, not leaving your valuables. Don't leave your valuables. Don't leave your children.
No, that's the most biggest valuable
They
you've got.
They knew.
Yeah.
Either way, no matter which way you go, when you follow the route back from all the different possibilities, it leads to one thing, and that is they left their children unattended in a foreign area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that's
but
my
ultimately,
opinion
I don't think they could have gotten away with it. People, when you research this case, like the parents absolutely did it. But at the end of the day, there's no physical evidence at all tying them, and it's logistically impossible. If you ask the questions like to yourself, how could they have masked? Like the whole idea is that an accident occurred. They're not. I don't think anyone thinks they're cold-blooded killers. An accident happened, and then they thought, I don't want to lose my children, Sean and Emily, and I don't want to lose my medical license.
A calculated response to a horrific thing that they...
Yeah, an accident because they accidentally drugged, whatever it is. And then they somehow managed to... Well, the idea was they temporarily hid her at the church, that church, and then later moved her body and then permanently buried her somewhere that still hasn't been found, or whilst the world's watching. I think that's literally impossible.
Yeah, it's
not feasible.
It's not feasible at all.
And there's no evidence, really. There's nothing.
No evidence. So let's just say they didn't do it.
Yeah. So next theory. So I feel like that's like categorically, I'm moving on from that in my head. So leave your opinions down below. But the next one is an abduction. By 2013, a Scotland Yard re-examined the case under Operation Grange. Detective Chief Inspector Andy Redwood said on one reading of the evidence, he said, Madeleine's disappearance did resemble a pre-planned abduction, an operation that would have required reconnaissance. Someone had been watching, and there were hints of that surveillance. In the days leading up to the 3rd of May 2007, multiple witnesses had noticed strange men loitering near apartment 5A. They lingered by the pathways, leaned on walls, and their presence was never fully explained. Some were even seen again on the very day Madeleine vanished. 6 years later, Scotland Yard's detectives were still trying to put names to those shadows. So those were the sort of the guys that we had mentioned in the first theory. The burglary, weird men loitering. Some was asking for donation. There was a ugly blonde man, sort of hanging around. So just weird men hanging around.
I guess this is just more of like a premeditated version of the burglary theory.
Sort of,
so
yes.
burglary is more like spur of the moment. Oh, kid, I'll take him.
That's
This
right.
is more of they've spotted the kid, they want the kid, and now they're acting upon that now.
And they're sussing things out.
Yeah.
In May 2013, they appealed for information on 12 manual workers who had been at the Ocean Club at the time. Among them were 6 British cleaners spotted in a white van going door to door and offering their services to British expatriates. Were they ordinary tradesmen or opportunists? Scotland Yard isn't alone in this belief. Dave Edgar, who was a retired detective inspector who was actually hired by Kate and Jerry to oversee a private investigation into her disappearance, he told the Daily Mail that his findings led him to conclude that Madeleine was most likely the victim of a well-planned abduction with a sexual motive, but that the child could still be alive. Edgar also said he believed the kidnapper had confessed his involvement to at least one person. He says that someone knows what happened and it's time they came forward, he said. If anyone confided in you, now is the time to come forward. They can keep it to themselves, and research has shown they always confide in someone else. So that's the idea that it was just a pre-planned abduction by one person who wanted a child for themselves. Which leads on to the next theory. What if it wasn't just for themselves, but Madeleine was kidnapped for a trafficking ring? So under Operation Grange, which, as we mentioned, was set up in 2011 to investigate the disappearance, is re-examining a theory that suggests Madeleine could have been abducted by a European human trafficking gang. The development is being taken so seriously that senior Whitehall officials have been briefed by the Metropolitan Police on its progress, The Sun on Sunday reported. Soon after, private detectives hired by the family found a witness who claimed a man had been taking photos of Madeleine on the beach before her disappearance. In 2008, the Met received a tip that a Belgian PDF file ring had placed an order for a young girl just 3 days before Madeleine vanished, The Sun reports, leading to speculation that this unknown man could have been working as part of a human trafficking gang. So again, people are taking pictures of her on a beach. That's weird. There are men loitering around apartment 5A. That's weird. Note that.
How confirmed is this guy who said that they saw? Was it definitely Madeleine who was getting who was? So the witness said they saw someone taking photos of Madeleine. Was that definitely Madeleine?
Yes, well, allegedly. That's what we
How
have.
sure is
That
it?
someone says that
Yeah, I'm
a
interested
witness
to
came
know.
forward.
Yeah,
Obviously, there are so many people who come forward. Maybe a man was generally taking pictures, but allegedly of Madeleine. That's weird.
Do something then and there.
Yeah. But I guess you would think.
Yeah.
Odd.
How some random bloke taking photos of kids I'd go over like, yo,
I
what
know.
do you think you're doing?
But maybe the dad's not like that, or the dad wasn't there. As a woman, I probably wouldn't like.
Oh, was it a woman who said? A witness? Oh, it could be. I don't think it was ever
No,
disclosed.
sorry, as in if the man who was taking pictures of Madeleine, you say that's weird, right? You'd think someone would do something about that in that moment. But maybe other people wouldn't have
Assumed it
intervened.
was the dad or something, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
So then this is where the next aspect of this theory of a trafficking gang. So in August 2009, the McCann's private investigators released an e-fit image of a woman they really wanted to track down. Clarence Mitchell, the family spokesperson, called her a highly significant person of interest. The witness was a British 41-year-old professional with no children who came forward in 2009, so 2 years after Madeleine's disappearance, to authorities with information of an encounter they had on Barcelona's Port Olympic Marina, so on a port, around May 7, 2007, just 3 days after Madeleine vanished, right? 2 British men had seen the female suspect in the early hours of the morning, and she looked well-dressed but agitated, pacing outside El Rey de la Gamba as if waiting for someone else. That's like a bar restaurant in the marina. After a brief exchange with one of the men, she headed into a nearby bar and got into a heated discussion with a local, apparently very fluent in Spanish, before walking off towards the area with the hospital and ferry cruise terminals. The main witness, that British man, described her as about 30 to 35 years old, around 5'2", slim, short brown hair, wearing expensive blue jeans and pastel-colored jersey tops. So she's really fine. She looks really, really expensive, luxurious, educated. The woman was described as glamorous and stylish and described as a, quote, Victoria Beckham lookalike. This woman is alleged to have asked the British man, "Have you got her? Have you got the child?" The British man also said she spoke with what sounded like an Australian or New Zealand accent, but he wasn't sure what it was. Although the family spokesman hasn't confirmed or denied what was said, they have confirmed that they were right to treat her as a possible accomplice. He was not able to share more details for operational reasons. Investigators from this point on thus floated the possibility that Madeleine could have been moved by a yacht from the Algarve, so from Praia da Luz, to Barcelona. Former UK Detective Inspector Dave Edgar, who leads the McCann's private inquiry that we just mentioned, called it a strong lead, and appealed for information about the woman. I think this is Ghislaine Maxwell. That's what the internet has got to
so
say.
many people.
Look at the comparison of the image.
Yeah. So for audio listeners, you'll be seeing this, but on screen now is the drawing. What do they call it? An
E-fit image.
image.
I guess it's like when you, from my understanding, people obviously draw out a likeness, and then like the computer actually makes a digital image of it. Yeah.
And I will be honest, I don't know if it's Ghislaine Maxwell. I guess it could be a reach. Who knows? But she was involved in this kind of thing.
Yes.
She's been arrested. So and
that is her.
It looks just like her.
It is her.
Let's do a bit of Occam's razor. It looks like her a lot, and she's involved in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is 2007. She has been trafficking human beings, minors, and we know children, like it's children, but let's say minors, for the elites. For decades, and this is 2007. No one knows about her yet.
I mean, let's go conspiracy mode and non-conspiracy mode for a second. It looks a hell of a lot like her.
It's her.
Would you? Yeah.
Don't be rational with me. It's her.
It looks a lot like her. I will say that. And she spoke Spanish.
Yes. Very wealthy, very affluent.
Very wealthy.
The thing is that
someone needs to track and see where she was in August 2009.
The crazy thing is that he was not able to share more details for operational reasons. A lot more was said and a lot more happened there that has not been released to the public to protect, I guess, for operations, to not compromise the investigation. What actually happened? But the only thing that they basically couldn't release was, have you got her? Have you got the child?
That is terrifying.
And the people were scared. And then the fact before that, human trafficking ring, that there was developments taken so seriously. The Met received a tip that a Belgian pedo ring had placed an order for a young girl just 3 days before Madeleine vanished. Allegedly, this is how these high-end pedo rings, they put a hit out on someone. Basically, a call, scouters find someone and they pick them.
Oh my God.
That's actually how these rings work. So when you understand the context that these rings work in this way, maybe they did pick her, and then they were scouting the family and realize these mother effers keep leaving their children unattended, and they're drugging them, possibly, allegedly, maybe like a little bit of cold and flu to make them a bit more drowsy, and like they're leaving them unattended from these hours. That's an easy nick.
I mean, it lines up with what Ghislaine did.
It actually, that's what she did.
And she, for a little kid who's confused and scared, she would be quite comforting. An older, 30-ish kind of woman with, because Ghislaine just looks like an unassuming. She doesn't look scary. She looks normal.
Yeah.
Oh, come with me. I'll take you to your mum, dad, or something. Just to make her less, scared and terrified. Because if men did take Madeleine, she'd probably be a hell of a lot more scared.
Yeah.
And then if she was transferred to a woman, it probably would have calmed her down a little bit.
For sure.
I don't know. Let's say
regardless, police were taking this seriously. Yeah. From this moment on, they started to consider, was she transported by water?
Yeah.
And if you guys remember from last week, the men of the second sighting, the Irish holidaymakers that saw someone carrying the girl, they were carrying her to the beach.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think the police, the Met, Operation Grange, I think they know actually that this is a lot bigger than it looks.
Because Madeleine McCann was so high profile straight away. It makes sense why she was agitated and pacing. Yeah. Because usually missing person cases, children, it's like a little flash in the pan gone. Yeah. And it's not too big.
Yeah.
But this was like from day one, bang.
Huge.
People at our school, like people were doing like moments. It was like, you know, the kids at school who wanted like all the attention.
Yeah.
This lass at our school wanted a moment silence for Madeleine, like
Oh.
a day after or something.
Yeah,
It's like it
right.
was big straight away. It was like
Yeah.
everyone knew about it. So like it makes sense why she was like agitated, nervous.
Because
A
so
lot
high
of eyes on
profile.
this kid.
Yes. That's
The
so
distinct
true.
mark on her eye. They might not
Yeah.
even realise that you've picked a kid with a birthmark that is
Yeah.
so rare.
For sure. Super high profile. She's
I'd say
agitated.
it's very strange. I don't want to draw any conclusions right away, but I will say the whole Ghislaine Maxwell thing is really weird.
And it gets weirder. Let's keep going.
But I will say, even if you Occam's razor, she's a human trafficker. It looks like her, and that's the kind of thing she did.
Spoke
Like
Spanish.
she was the kind of she spoke Spanish.
Victoria Beckham looked super wealthy and in the yacht, in the bustling marina.
Yeah.
Have you got her? Have you got the child? Holy moly. What else happened in that night? What was she saying to make police go, okay, hold on, guys. We actually need to start looking towards the water now.
Yeah.
Like something else went down.
Fascinating that.
All right, next theory. This keeps going though, but let's continue.
So moving on from the rather strange theory there is another quite strange theory too, and this is the theory that a man called Sir Clement Freud was involved. And if you recognise the name Freud, yes, this guy is indeed related to Sigmund Freud. About 2 months after Madeleine disappeared, they received an unexpected letter in the post, and this letter was from Sir Clement Freud. He invited them over for dinner in his holiday home in Praia da Luz, just a short drive away from the Ocean Club where Madeleine had vanished on the 3rd of May 2007. Kate later admits in her book, Madeleine, that she and Jerry initially thought that this letter had to be a hoax. But Jerry called the number anyway, and it checked out. It was indeed Clement Freud. The very next day, they went to Freud's villa, and with the twins, along with 3 other friends too, they went for dinner with Sigmund Freud's, what relative is it to Sigmund Freud?
Grandson, I'm pretty sure.
Grandson. At the time, Freud was 83 years old, and according to Kate, he broke the ice by offering her a strawberry vodka, which she said sounded odd, but it did very much break the ice. And he cooked for them. He made a chicken and mushroom risotto, which Kate describes as bloody marvellous, and the best risotto she has ever tasted, before or since. She kept saying that Freud was very good at keeping their spirits up with his dry humour. And after he went back to England, he continued to check up on them via mail. By the 31st of August, Freud returned to Portugal and phoned Jerry as soon as he arrived. And they kept in touch until September of 2007, which was the night that the McCanns were formally made suspects. They had actually been due to have dinner at Freud's house, but they cancelled given the circumstances. But even so, at 9:50 p.m, Freud called them and essentially said, just come for a drink, and I'll be wearing my pyjamas. Just come over. I'll make you feel a bit better. And so they did. They went over, and they found Freud watching his cooking program, wearing his pyjamas just like he had promised. And for the McCanns, this whole layout felt incredibly warming and comforting. As Kate later said, it was almost like visiting a grandparent after a rough day at school. At this meeting, the McCanns and Freud spoke about the sniffer dogs, which Freud just joked and laughed about it and said, so what are they going to do? Put them on stand, 1 back for yes, 2 for no? Just basically poking fun at the whole situation, trying to make the McCanns feel safe and comforted, and basically just someone on their side. After a few hours, some brandy and a few practical suggestions, and even several entertaining anecdotes, they left feeling noticeably better than when they had arrived. So, by all accounts, they had a very, very good relationship with Freud.
Very charming.
Freud then died in 2009, and following that, some extremely, extremely heinous accusations came, and by all accounts, he died in 2009, and in 2016 these allegations came to light, so he's never been tried. That needs to be said from the get-go, but Freud's wife did later apologise, because I think she believed them to be true, so we can say, he wasn't tried, but this is most likely...
But wasn't the guy that you did it? What's that really crazy guy in
Jimmy
England?
Savile. It's Jimmy Savile. This guy's basically just Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile type.
In June of 2016, 2 women publicly accused him of child SA that allegedly took place between the 1940s and 1970s. One woman, named Sylvia, said that she was abused by Freud from about the age of 10 continuing into her late teenage years. Another woman, who remains anonymous, claimed that Freud groomed her starting when she was about 11 and abused her at 14 and R-worded her at 18 when he was a member of parliament, which he was an MP in the UK. Eventually, another woman came forward saying that she was essayed by him at the age of 17 and she had also met him when she was 14, so it looks like he groomed her there as well.
Yeah.
The Metropolitan Police soon announced, after these allegations came to light, that they would assess them under a part of a historical abuse investigation. When these allegations in 2016 emerged, Kate and Jerry McCann said that they were horrified by them, especially given the kindness that he had showed them in Portugal. Now, Freud's family have said that he wasn't in Portugal at the time that Madeleine disappeared, so the timelines don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
I still find it very weird
Yes.
why he wanted to be around them so badly.
Yep.
We mentioned before about people returning to the scene of the crime,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of thing. I do find it weird.
Very
He
weird.
wasn't a nice guy. He wasn't
No.
doing this out of the kindness of his heart or anything like that. You have to remember, this is a guy who was a
Serial PDF file.
serial PDF file and abuser and R-wordist. He wasn't doing this out of the goodness of his
No.
heart. He either enjoyed seeing them suffering or something. He was getting something
Yeah.
out of it.
For sure.
I just don't believe for one second that he was doing that for any other reason, for
For sure.
any altruistic reason.
Yeah.
When this all came out, Freud's wife did issue a statement, and she said that she was profoundly sorry for what had happened to these women and that she hoped that they might now find some peace. So what it seems like is she believed this.
Yes.
This wasn't typically a woman might be like, no, my husband would never.
Yeah.
She maybe thought, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's him.
Yeah.
Okay. So Clement Freud also had some very strong show business connections too. He was friends with Rolf Harris. As you know, Rolf Harris is a convicted PDF file and serial abuser who was also friends with Jimmy Savile. So these people were all in the same similar circles.
Yep.
And that's not only it. When he moved into journalism and then politics, serving as a MP for 14 years in 1973, it was during this time, as his days in Parliament, that he shared an office with Cyril Smith, who was also a prolific PDF file. So this man surrounded himself with serious abusers.
Yeah. They're all, I think that it's all a ring.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're all rubbing shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of guy that was getting close to the McCanns.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that guy did anything. He wasn't doing this for the goodness of his heart.
No.
And I think it's incredibly suspicious. Either he just wanted to be around the drama and he enjoyed the drama and being a part of all that, which doesn't surprise me. That could be a thing too. But part of me wonders if
it falls
he
apart.
was somewhat involved in some way, shape or form
Yes.
involved. He wasn't there in the country at the time, but maybe someone on his behalf did something, and that he was just almost like staying as close as he could to the parents. Let's like the crime scene, but the parents is near the crime scene anyway. I find that whole thing very suspicious.
It gets even more suspicious.
It does
All right.
indeed.
So this is where I'm going to take over with my final theory. But a lot of this is not fact. It's
This
me
is-
going on a ramble. It's online chatter. So I'm going to be very clear when I'm talking about fact and when I'm not talking about fact, just to make sure that I don't get sued. So the next theory has to do with John Podesta. This is a very wacky theory that has been floated around, but it does need to be said. So, because it's very common. And this is honestly a little bit of what I think.
It's very strange,
possible.
isn't it? It's super weird. Yeah.
So, first of all, for those who don't know, John Podesta was most recently served as a senior advisor to Joe Biden's administration on international climate policy. Before that, he was the chairman of the 2016 Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. And before that, he was the chief of staff to President Bill Clinton and counselor to President Barack Obama. So simply put, he is an elite political player in American politics. He's a big, big top guy. Now, as we know from last week's episode, although the Tanner sighting was dismissed, which was the first sighting, the second sighting by the Irish holiday makers is believed to have been the actual abductor. And in 2013, under Operation Grange, this image was released of two persons of significant interest, and one of these men shown is believed to have been the man seen walking away with a child in his arms. Now, the similarities to John Podesta and his brother Tony Podesta are striking and was being spread significantly around social media. And still to this day, people talk about this. In particular, if you look at Tony Podesta, he's got a little freckle above his eye, like a mole freckle above his eyebrow. And in the eFit image that looks like Tony, it's also got it. So the similarities are striking. And a lot of people,
It is, when you showed me that, you were like, look, it's definitely them. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then you showed me, I was like, oh, damn, it does look like him. I mean, I'm leaning on, it probably wasn't them.
Yeah.
But it is weird.
Yeah.
Like, and weird things do happen in cases. But it is, I think it's worth saying as well, this one, because it does get brought up all the time online.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, this is something to do with,
For sure.
you know, these rings and stuff, and he's involved and blah, 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 and stuff.
And to me, I mean, it's pretty crazy that you have two people who individually look almost identical to the eFit, but the fact that they're brothers, what are the chances that brothers look identical to those two images?
And it's one like Ghislaine's involved.
Yes, and then on top of it,
she's part of the elite.
Yeah, and then on top of it, these men were seen walking towards the beach, right? And if we remember, the Victoria Beckham looking lady that looks like Ghislaine was in Barcelona. And at the time in 2009, when this British man came forward about this Victoria Beckham lookalike, they were starting to look at, well, maybe she was transported, by the ocean, and actually moved upwards. These people, I think that woman was Ghislaine, however you pronounce that name. And then possibly it was some kind of elite trafficking ring. I mean, I know that the evidence is slim, but to me, it's striking.
Well, one thing is worth mentioning that you pointed out is John Podesta's artwork.
Yes.
That he collects, because he has a very peculiar taste in art.
Yes. So
we can't even show it on screen. It's quite distressing. It's not nice to look at.
No.
It invokes feelings of like disgust.
Yeah.
But not in like a way that's like, oh, that's thought provoking.
And arty.
Or like a scene of war where you go, yeah, we shouldn't repeat that.
Yeah.
Like war's terrible, but it's important to look at it.
For sure.
This is just straight up gross.
Yeah. And just for those who don't, type in John Podesta artwork. It's basically depictions of children.
Tied up.
With
red shoes
bound.
On.
It's really horrific. And I was initially going to talk a lot about the theories online about him and all the controversies, but you guys can probably look at that yourself. But he's a controversial figure.
He's involved in a lot of conspiracy.
Yep.
Whether it's true or not, who knows? But his name gets brought up a lot.
Yes.
And he does look. It is weird.
It's very weird.
It's weird.
I'm more inclined to believe this was an international operation, and I would have been a crazy person before Epstein came out. And then it all came to light that actually, you know what, elite people, the elites did this.
And there's a Ghislaine lookalike in
and
there.
There's a Ghislaine lookalike.
It's all very, very strange. It's all very, very strange.
Yes. But the artwork and the likeness is really the two main things.
It's uncanny. I'd say it's uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely strange.
So yeah, we won't go further into it.
Yeah. If you want to look into it more and who he is and what he's apparently done or whatever, it's like fringe internet wild stuff.
Yes.
But some people believe it's true, so we thought it was worth mentioning.
I'm leaning towards it was them versus you're like, absolutely not, Cassie.
I think it's the person who is responsible is the person we're going to touch on in next episode, which is Christian Bruckner.
Yeah.
So this is the man who the German prosecutors have announced that they have evidence to suggest that this man, Christian Bruckner, is the killer. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for watching and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah. Fucking hell. I'll have Calpol. I could drink it all day. I think I've got memory problems. My mum said something today and I was like, I think I've got memory problems. I'll have Calpol. I could drink it all day. I banged my head when I was a kid and I swear to fuck, I think I've got memory problems. Fucking hell, I don't remember saying that. Did I say that? Was it me who said that?
Oh, me? I can't remember.
I can't remember anything. I'll have Calpol. I could drink it all day. I don't know what's going on. I've got something wrong with me anyway. Go about that.
Don't leave. You'll take my coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.